Our next story is about cooperation and communication. How these basic principles were embraced ages ago by the simplest of creatures. They live in our mouths and digestive system, and will probably receive little attention were it not for some of their fellow species who reward us and other hosts with a sweep of unsavory diseases. These include dysentery, which infects 50 million people worldwide each year, mostly through polluted water. Professor Mirelman, what makes amoeba so successful?
Simple. Amoeba don't need a partner to reproduce. Amoeba actually reproduce asexually. If you have a cell, it will first multiply its genetic material, which is in the nuclei, and then slowly start forming a narrow waist until the cell divides into daughter and mother cell.
Such an efficient reproductive process, it's hardly surprising they infect so many people.
Well, it's true, but there is a mystery to the cell division of amoeba, because we have seen many times that there are amoeba with multiple nuclei. And this suggests to us that the division process is not always so successful.
And this is where Professor Elisha Moses enters the picture. Professor Moses, what is a physicist doing in a biology lab?
We were looking at the mechanics and the physics of how a cell pinches in two.
I see. But what is the physics of cell division?
Well, there's a very violent 5 minutes during which the cell builds up its muscle and cuts itself in two. And we were wondering how, on a molecular level, a single cell can make such a complex task.
So that's why you started growing live cells in a physics lab.
Precisely. And we preferred amoeba because their shape, their motions, quite simple, quite elegant. That's what also made it much easier for us to study them.
And amoeba multiply quite quickly, as you know.
The two scientists met here at Charlie's place, and learning they were working on two sides of the same coin, mapped out a strategy for collaboration.
We built a specialized imaging and manipulation system to study the physical processes in cells, and brought the amoeba from Professor Mirelman's lab and just put them inside. One day one of the students came to me saying I should come immediately because something very unusual was happening in the lab.
One night, during an ordinary watch in the lab, a student witnessed a phenomenon that had never been seen before.
We saw that in certain cases when amoeba has trouble dividing, a neighboring one approaches and actually help them separate by pushing and pulling apart and help it divide. And we named this amoeba midwife.
Professor Mirelman, how does this happen?
We assume that the amoeba, which are struggling to divide, release a chemical cry for help. To test this hypothesis, we collected fluid with a very fine pipette near the narrow waist of a dividing amoeba and released it elsewhere in the flask. The result, more than a third of the amoeba flocked to that spot. Some traveled up to 40 times their own length and even chased the pipette around the flask.
The goal now, I'm told, is to better understand the nature of the chemical attractant and the midwife's response to it. This glimpse into amoeba reproduction may contribute to future attempts to control amoeba-borne infectious diseases.